Hey guys, tonight we trek into the misty highlands of the Inca Empire where the air hums with the clink of chisels and the whisper of secrets carved into stone stairways. Picture yourself climbing rugged Andes slopes, your breath puffing in the chill as Inca carvers etch cryptic messages into steps that lead to sacred temples. You're diving into a world where every groove holds a hidden code, and one wrong glance could unravel an empire's mystery spoiler. You probably won't survive this puzzle without a few high-altitude jitters. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in Cusco, the Inca capital, around the 15th century, where stone stairways snake up mountainsides, their edges sharp as a condor's beak. These aren't just paths. They're canvases carved with subtle patterns, swirls, zigzags, or tiny crosses that only the initiated can read. Inca carvers, skilled artisans, hid messages in these steps, encoding everything from tribute records to spiritual guidance for priests. Why hide them? Because in an empire without writing stone was their script, and secrecy was power. Imagine you're a carver, your hands blistered, chiseling a spiral that looks decorative but whispers tax counts to a noble. One slip, and you're not just botching art, you're risking the Sapa Inca's wrath. Historically, the Inca Empire, spanning modern Peru to Chile by 1500, relied on oral and visual systems like quipus and stonework to manage its vast domain. Stairways, especially at sites like Machu Picchu, were both functional and symbolic, linking earth to sky. But here's the quirky bit. Some carvers believed their chisels were blessed by Inti, the sun god, vibrating slightly when cutting sacred patterns. Sounds wild, right? Like your pen glowing during a killer essay. Historians still argue whether this was spiritual belief or a way to hype their craft. Did chisels really hum? Or was it just artisan swagger? You pause on a stairway, the stone cool under your fingers, noticing a faint zigzag that doesn't quite match the rest. It's no accident. It's a code maybe marking a solstice alignment or a noble's lineage. The carver's skill is jaw-dropping, fitting stones so tightly you can't slip a blade between them, yet embedding secrets in plain sight. You squint, but the pattern's elusive, designed to vanish unless you know the key. These messages weren't for everyone, only priests, nobles, or trusted carvers could decode them, guarding the empire's pulse. You smirk, thinking it's like hiding your diary's juiciest page in a doodle genius, but risky. You step closer, the wind carrying the tang of earth and distant coca leaves. A carver nearby hammers rhythmically, his eyes sharp, aware that his work binds the Inca's world, land gods, and power. You're starting to feel the weight of their craft, each chip a whisper of loyalty. Ever hide a secret in plain sight? That's the carver's game, played on stone steps to the heavens. But the real magic happens in their workshops, where these cryptic codes take shape, and you're about to slip into their dusty, sacred world. You're trudging through the high-altitude haze of Cusco, the Inca capital, where the dawn mist clings to stone walls, and the air carries the faint scent of smoldering quinoa from nearby hearths. The city stirs with the clatter of llamas and the low chant of priests, but you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into stone stairways, their zigzags whispering secrets of tribute and time. Remember that faint spiral you spotted on a step? A noble's code glinting in the sun. Those cryptic patterns were born in sacred workshops where carvers shaped stone in secrecy. Now you're exploring these dusty sanctuaries where the Incas' coded stairways took form, and trust me, it's more intense than a temple fire at solstice. Picture yourself ducking into a low-roofed workshop nestled against a cliff, its stone walls glowing faintly under flickering torches, the air thick with the grit of andesite and the tang of sweat. Carvers hunch over slabs, their basalt hammers and obsidian chisels clinking in a steady rhythm, each strike as precise as a cuipanart. These aren't just workplaces, they're sacred spaces blessed by priests with coca offerings to honor Inti, the sun god, and Pachamama, the earth mother. The stairways, messages, crosses, swirls, or step motifs are crafted here, each pattern a secret for nobles or shamans hidden in plain sight. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca workshops in Cuzco produced stonework of unmatched precision, their carvers trained to embed codes like tribute tallies or ritual dates into steps for sites like Machu Picchu. You're watching a master carver etch a faint zigzag, his hand steady, knowing it counts a village's maze for the Sapa Inca's storehouses. Here's the quirky bit. Some carvers whispered chants to the stone before cutting, believing it agreed to hold their message. Imagine sweet talking a rock like it's your best friend. Sounds like a mason's lullaby, right? Historians still argue whether this was spiritual reverence or a focusing trick. Did stones really listen? Or were carvers just psyching themselves up? You step closer, the workshop's dust settling on your skin like a gritty veil. The carver's zigzag, so subtle it vanishes at certain angles, isn't just art, it's a ledger meant for a noble's eyes. These workshops are fortresses of skill where apprentices grind tools and memorize patterns through oral chants, never writing them down. Secrecy is the guild's heartbeat. A leaked code could let rebels decode tax records or disrupt a ritual. You're struck by the tension, each chip a vow to the Empire's order. It's like coding a secret database, but one wrong line could spark a revolt. You smirk, thinking of your own hidden notes, ever stash a cheat sheet somewhere sneaky. That's the carver's vibe carved into stone. You notice an apprentice sweeping stone chips, his eyes darting to the master's work, hungry to learn, but years from touching a sacred slab. The workshop's hierarchy is strict masters hold the codes, apprentices earn trust through toil, chanting prayers to Inti while shaping basalt hammers. A misstep like carving an unapproved swirl could banish you from the guild, your hands branded as unworthy. You wince, imagining the shame. It's like flunking a group project and losing your crew's trust, but with your whole career on the line. You chuckle, picturing the apprentice double-checking his hammer like you'd proofread a risky text, hoping to stay in the game. You glance at a half-finished step, its cross pattern shimmering faintly, designed to mark a solstice for a priest's ritual. The carver's skill is eerie, fitting stone so tightly a breeze can't slip through, yet hiding messages that only the initiated see. These workshops aren't just about craft. They're the Empire's secret scriptorium where stone speaks for those who know its tongue. You're hooked, feeling the pulse of their world, but the message's spiritual roots run deeper, tying stone to Inti's light. And you're about to see how the gods shaped every cryptic groove. As you slip out, Cusco's rhythm, llama calls, priest's murmurs, feels like a carved heartbeat. You're starting to grasp the carver's craft, their workshops, not just dens of dust, but cradles of empire. Those stairway messages are their legacy, but their spiritual weight is what makes them sing, and you're itching to climb that sacred thread. You're winding through the dawn-lit alleys of Cusco, the Inca capital, where the Andean air bites with a crisp chill, and the faint scent of burning coca leaves drifts from a nearby shrine. The city's waking its cobblestones, echoing with the shuffle of sandals and the soft chants of priests. But you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into stone stairways, their zigzags whispering secrets of maze and rituals. Remember that carver in the workshop, etching a tribute tally with a whispered chant to the stone? His craft was sacred, but it's the spiritual essence of these messages that gives them life. Now you're diving into how spirituality shaped the hidden symbols in Inca stairways, and trust me, it's deeper than a condor's dive over the Andes. Picture yourself standing at the foot of a stairway climbing toward a sun temple, its andesite steps gleaming under Inti's first rays, each one etched with faint patterns, swirls, crosses, or stepped motifs that seem to hum with purpose. For the Inca stone wasn't just rock, it was alive with huaca, a sacred force linking it to gods like Inti the sun, Pachamama, the Earth Mother, and Viracocha, the Creator. Carvers didn't merely chisel, they wove divine meaning into every groove, believing their patterns channeled spiritual guidance for priests or nobles. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca religion infused all crafts with stonework seen as a cosmic pact, aligning the empire with celestial cycles like solstices or Venus's rise. You're watching a carver pause, offering a coca leaf to Inti before etching a spiral that marks the equinox, his hands trembling with reverence. Here's the quirky bit. Some carvers swore the stones breathed during rituals, guiding their chisels with faint pulses felt in their palms. Imagine your desk nudging your hand to write better sounds, like a mystic's tall tale, right? Historians still argue whether this was spiritual belief or a poetic focus trick. Did stones really breathe, or were carvers just in tune with their craft? You step closer, the stairway's cool stone tingling under your fingers. The carver's spiral isn't just decoration, it's a prayer, tying the step to Inti's celestial path, meant to guide a priest's festival timing. These messages, often linked to sacred events, solstices, harvests, or planetary alignments, ensuring the empire's harmony with the gods. You're struck by the intimacy, how each chip is an offering binding Cusco to the heavens. It's like crafting a playlist that's also a sacred calendar, but for divine ears. You smirk, thinking of your own moments of wonder. Ever feel a place has a vibe? These carvers etch that vibe into stone, their work, a bridge to the cosmos. You notice a priest nearby, his coca offering smoldering, as he eyes a cross pattern, ensuring it honors Pachamama without straying into heresy. His presence is a reminder a misplaced swirl could disrupt a ritual, angering the gods and risking a drought. You wince, imagining the carver's stress. It's like posting a sacred meme, hoping it doesn't flop with the divine, except here it's Inti's judgment. You chuckle, picturing the carver double-checking his cross like you'd proofread a risky group chat message. The spiritual stakes are sky high. A flawed message might curse a harvest or weaken a warrior's blessing. You trace a faint zigzag, its angles vanishing unless the light hits just right. The patterns are subtle, meant for those who know priests decoding solstice dates, nobles reading lineage markers. The carver's faith isn't just belief, it's discipline. They're chisels guided by coca rituals and starlit prayers to keep the hoaka strong. You're hooked, seeing how spirituality shapes every groove, making the stairways not just paths, but divine scripts. But this isn't a lone craft. The carvers belong to guilds, sacred brotherhoods that guard these holy secrets. And you're about to meet the men who keep the stone soul locked tight. As you climb the steps, Cusco's pulse priestess chants wind, whistling through peaks, feels like a sacred rhythm. You're starting to grasp the carver's world, their spiritual craft, not just art, but a pact with Inti and Pachamama. Those hidden messages are prayers in stone, but the guilds that carve them are the empire's heartbeat, and you're itching to step into their hallowed circle. You're winding through the torchlit haze of Cusco's sacred quarter, the night air sharp with the chill of the Andes and the faint scent of burning maize from nearby altars. The city hums with the soft clatter of llamas and the low drone of priests' chants. But you're still chasing those hidden messages, carved into stone stairways, their spirals, pulsing with divine huaca. Remember that carver praying to Inti before etching an equinox swirl. His spiritual craft was a pact with the gods, but he didn't work alone. Now, you're uncovering the secret guilds of carvers who guarded these stone-bound codes. And trust me, it's tighter than a temple's fitted stones. Picture yourself slipping into a stone-walled workshop, its air thick with the grit of andesite and the tang of coca smoke torches casting shadows that dance like spirits. Carvers sit shoulder to shoulder, their obsidian chisels clinking in rhythm, each strike embedding a cross or zigzag into a stairway slab. These men aren't just artisans, they're a brotherhood, a guild tied to an Ayla, their clan sworn to protect the Empire's secrets. Their messages, tribute tallies, solstice markers, or lineage codes are sacred, shared only with trusted members under Inti's gaze. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca guilds often clan-based controlled stonework for sites like Sacsayhuaman, their precision, legendary hiding codes in steps that only priests or nobles could read. You're watching a master carver guide an apprentice's hand, his voice low, teaching a spiral's curve that marks a noble's lineage. Here's the quirky bit. Some guilds use secret chants hummed only at dawn to pass patterns to apprentices, believing Inti's light sealed the knowledge. Imagine learning a code through a sunrise song. Sounds like a Mason's secret playlist, right? Historians still argue whether these chants were spiritual or practical. Did they bind carvers to Inti, or just keep patterns safe? You step closer, the workshop's dust settling on your skin. The master's spiral, faint as a whisper, isn't just art. It's a code tying a noble to his ancestors, meant for a priest's eyes. The guild's rules are strict, masters carved messages, apprentices grind tools, and no outsider learns the patterns. Betraying the guild like sharing a zigzag's meaning could mean exile, your name erased from the Ailu's stories. You wince imagining the shame. It's like getting kicked out of a group chat for spilling tea, but with your whole clan disowning you. You smirk, picturing the apprentice double-checking his chisel like you'd proofread a risky post. Ever hide a secret too big to share? That's their life etched in stone. You notice the guild's unity, their chants sinking with hammer strikes, each man a thread in a sacred weave. Their messages are the empire's pulse linking Cusco to its provinces through tributes and rituals. But secrecy breeds tension. A rival guild might covet your cross pattern, stealing it to claim your temple contracts. You're struck by their vigilance, how they guard their craft like a fortress. It's like protecting your startup's code, but with divine stakes. You chuckle, thinking of a carver, eyeballing a rival's slab like you'd side-eye a competitor's project. The workshop feels alive, a brotherhood, where every chip is a vow to Inti and the Empire. You glance at a half-carved step, its zigzag shimmering faintly designed to vanish unless you know the light's angle. The guild's skill is eerie, hiding messages in plain sight, their patterns a language only they speak. They're not just carvers, they're keepers of Cusco's soul, their stairways mapping power and faith. You're hooked, feeling their pride, but the Sapa Inca's shadow looms his eyes, watching every chisel. You recall that solstice spiral, its divine glow tied to Inti. The Emperor's oversight is next shaping these cryptic codes, and you're itching to see how his will binds the guilds under Cusco's starry peaks. As you ease out the city's rhythm, llama bleats, priest's murmurs, feels like a stone heartbeat. You're starting to grasp the carver's world, their guilds not just workshops, but sacred circles guarding the Empire's secrets. Those stairway messages are their legacy. But the Sapa Inca's grip is iron, and you're ready to climb into his watchful domain. You're navigating the crowded heart of Cusco, the Inca capital, where the midday sun blazes overhead, casting stark shadows on stone walls as the air hums with the scent of roasted maize and the faint tang of coca leaves offered in nearby rituals. The city's alive with the chatter of nobles and the clink of quepus being counted, but you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into stairway steps, their crosses and zigzags, whispering secrets under guild oaths. Remember that master carver teaching his apprentice a sacred spiral in the workshop. Their brotherhood guarded Inti's codes, but they answered to a higher power, the Sapa Inca. Now you're diving into how the Emperor's iron oversight shaped these cryptic carvings, and trust me, it's stricter than a temple guard's glare. Picture yourself skirting the edge of the Coricancha Palace, its golden walls shimmering as imperial soldiers patrol with obsidian-tipped spears, their eyes sharp as condors. A carver hurries past his cloak, concealing a stone slab etched with a faint cross his steps, quickening toward the Sapa Inca's court. These stairways aren't just paths. They're the Emperor's ledgers, their hidden messages, tribute counts, ritual dates, or troop orders crafted under his divine command. Historically, by the 15th century, Sapa Inca rulers like Pachacuti tightly controlled crafts, with stonework guilds reporting to nobles who ensured loyalty to the empire's needs, from tax collection to temple rites. You're watching a carver present his slab to a royal overseer, his hand steady, but his breath short, knowing one flawed pattern could mark him a traitor. Here's the quirky bit. Some carvers believed the Sapa Inca's shadow cast during solstice rituals sealed their messages, making stones unbreakable. Imagine your boss's silhouette juicing up your work. Sounds like a royal ego boost, right? Historians still argue whether this was devotion or propaganda. Did carvers think the emperor's shadow was magic, or were they kissing up to power? You step closer, the palace's heat radiating off the stones. The carver's cross, subtle as a whisper, tallies a province's coca harvest. For Cusco's stores, a code only nobles decode. The Sapa Inca's oversight is relentless. Guilds submit designs to his court, ensuring every zigzag serves the empire's order. A pattern too bold, like a swirl hinting at rebellion, could brand a guild disloyal, risking execution or exile. You wince imagining the carver's dread. It's like posting a sketchy plan on a work server, knowing the CEO's watching. Except here, it's a god-king's wrath. You smirk, picturing the carver triple-checking his chisel like you'd proofread a high-stakes email. The emperor's control isn't just power, it's divine, his will tying Cusco to Inti's celestial mandate. You notice a soldier eyeing the carver, his spear glinting like a warning. The Sapa Inca's spies, known as Mitmac, infiltrate guilds, sniffing for defiance. A leaked message could let rebels hoard tribute or misread a military code, unraveling the empire's grip. Carvers fight back with cunning, hiding patterns in shadows or angles. Only priests see their loyalty etched in every groove. You're struck by their nerve, how they weave obedience into stone while dodging imperial scrutiny. It's like slipping a secret note into a report, but with chisels and cosmic stakes. You chuckle, thinking of a carver hiding a zigzag like you'd bury a joke in a serious text. Ever keep a secret from a nosy boss? That's their daily grind under Inti's blazing eye. You glance at a nearby stairway, its steps etched with faint spirals that shift in the sunlight. The emperor's grip ensures these messages fuel his empire, taxes flow, rituals align, armies march. But it's a tightrope. Guilds must please the Sapa Inca while guarding their craft's huaca, their patterns a dance of duty and devotion. You're hooked, feeling the carver's tension. Their stairway is not just stone, but imperial script. You recall that guild's torchlit workshop, their chants binding them to Inti. Those messages hold deeper meanings, stories in stone, and you're about to unravel what these cryptic patterns truly say under Cusco's sacred sun. As you slip past the palace, the city's pulse llama bleats. Priests' chants feels like an imperial heartbeat. You're starting to grasp the carver's world, their guilds bound to the Sapa Inca's will, their stairway messages, his voice in stone. Those hidden codes are the empire's secrets, but their stories run deeper, and you're itching to decode their silent tales. You're weaving through the golden haze of Cusco's bustling plaza, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows on stone walls as the air hums with the scent of dried coca and the clatter of quipus being knotted by nobles. You're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps, their crosses and zigzags whispering secrets under the Sapa Inca's iron gaze. Remember that carver presenting his slab to a royal overseer, his cross tallying a province's harvest. Those patterns were imperial orders, but their meanings run deeper, a silent language of empire. Now you're unraveling what these cryptic stairway codes truly say, and trust me, it's trickier than untangling a quipu's knots. Picture yourself pausing on a stairway winding toward a temple, its andesite steps cool under your feet, each one etched with subtle patterns, spirals, stepped motifs, or faint zigzags that shimmer in the fading light. These aren't just decorations, they're the Inca's script encoding vital information. A spiral might trace a noble's lineage, tying them to Inti's divine bloodline. A zigzag could tally maize for Cusco's storehouses, while a cross marks a solstice for priests' rituals. In an empire without written words, stone was their ledger, read only by those with the key nobles, shamans, or trusted carvers. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca stonework, like at Ollantaytambo, served as both art and archive, with stairways acting as permanent records for taxes rights or military plans. You're squinting at a stepped motif, its angles hinting at a distant outpost's troop count, but only if you know the code. Here's the quirky bit. Some priests believe the patterns whispered their meanings during coke-induced trances, revealing secrets to the worthy. Imagine a stone chatting like a cryptic oracle. Sounds like a shaman's wild vision, right? Historians still argue whether this was spiritual insight or ritual performance. Did patterns really speak, or were priests amplifying their mystique? You run your fingers along a step, feeling a faint spiral that vanishes unless the light hits just right. It's a lineage marker tying a noble to his ancestors, meant for a shaman's eyes. The carver's genius is in their subtlety. Patterns blend into the stone's grain, invisible to outsiders, but clear to the initiated. You're struck by the layers. Practical messages like tribute counts for maize or coca keep the empire running, while spiritual ones like solstice crosses bind it to Inti's will. It's like hiding a budget spreadsheet in a painting, but for divine stakes. You smirk, thinking of your own secret codes. Ever jot a note only you could read? That's the carver's game, etched for eternity. You notice a noble climbing the stairs, his gaze lingering on a zigzag, decoding a harvest tally with a nod. These messages are the empire's pulse taxes fuel. Cusco rituals honor gods, lineages secure loyalty. But they're fragile. A misread spiral could miscount tribute, angering the Sapa Inca, or throw off a festival, risking Pachamama's wrath. You wince, imagining the carver's stress. It's like sending a coded email praying it's not misread, except here it's an empire's fate. You chuckle, picturing a carver double-checking his cross like you'd triple-check a risky text. The pattern's meanings are a dance of power and faith, each groove a story only Cusco's elite can read. You step back the stairway, stretching like a stone scroll toward the temple's peak. The codes are layered, practical, for nobles sacred, for priests cosmic, for the empire's soul. You recall that workshop's torch-lit glow where carvers chanted to Inti before chiseling. Those messages aren't just earthly, they're tied to the stars with spirals tracking Venus or crosses marking solstices. You're hooked, seeing the stairways as more than paths, they're narratives, each pattern a chapter in the Inca's cosmic saga. But these codes don't carve themselves, the stars guide their design, and you're about to grasp how celestial alignments shape these cryptic grooves under Cusco's sacred skies. As you linger, the city's rhythm, priests' murmurs wind through peaks, feels like a coded pulse. You're starting to grasp the carver's world, their stairway patterns, not just messages, but the empire's heartbeat, whispering of tribute and time. Those hidden codes hold Inca stories, but their starry roots run deeper, and you're itching to climb that celestial thread. You're perched on a stone stairway overlooking Cusco's golden valley. The twilight air crisp with the scent of eucalyptus and smoldering coca offerings, the city's hum of evening rituals blending with the distant cry of a condor. You're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps, their zigzags and spirals encoding tributes and noble lineages. Remember that noble decoding a harvest tally on a stairway zigzag? Those patterns were the empire's silent script, but their meanings weren't just earthly. They were tied to the heavens. Now you're grasping how cosmic alignments guided the design of these stairway messages. And trust me, it's more dazzling than a meteor shower over the Andes. Picture yourself in a high temple courtyard, the night sky ablaze with stars, their patterns mirrored in the stairway below, crosses, swirls, and stepped motifs glinting under torchlight. For the Inca, the heavens were a divine map with constellations like the Pleiades, or Orion, guiding agriculture rituals and warfare. Carvers wove these celestial markers into stairway messages, aligning patterns with solstices, equinoxes, or planetary rises to guide priests and nobles. A spiral might trace Venus's path across mark Inti's solstice peak. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca astronomy was precise, with observatories like those at Machu Picchu, using stone alignments to track celestial cycles, ensuring the empire's harmony with the cosmos. You're watching a carver etch a stepped motif, his chisel guided by a priest who points to the Milky Way, its dark patches sacred to the Inca as the celestial river. Here's the quirky bit. Some carvers believed starlight charged their stones, making patterns stronger if carved under specific constellations like the Southern Cross. Imagine your chisel glowing like a cosmic battery. Sounds like a stargazer's daydream. Right. Historians still argue whether this was spiritual belief or a ritual focus. Did stars really empower stones? Or was it just poetic craft? You step closer, the stairway's cool stone tingling under your fingers. The carver's motif, a faint cross, aligns with the Pleiades' rise, signaling a planting season for priests. These cosmic messages aren't random. They're calculated, tying the empire's rhythm to Inti's journey or Venus's arc. You're struck by the precision, how a swirl can map a solstice while blending into the step's grain. It's like hiding a star chart in a doodle, but for divine stakes. You smirk, thinking of your own stargazing moments. Ever spot a constellation and feel connected? These carvers etch that connection into stone, their patterns a dialogue with the cosmos. You notice a priest nearby, his coca leaves scattered, as he confirms the cross's alignment with a star's ascent. His role ensures the patterns stay true. A misaligned swirl could throw off a harvest ritual, angering Pachamama or Inti. You wince, imagining the carver's nerves. It's like syncing your phone's clock for a big event, but with cosmic consequences. You chuckle, picturing the carver squinting at the sky like you'd check a weather app before a hike. The stairways are more than paths. They're celestial clocks, their messages guiding the empire's sacred and practical life, planting, warring, worshiping. You run your fingers along a spiral its curve, echoing Venus's evening path, a noble's lineage marker tied to the star's divine glow. The carver's skill is eerie, blending astronomy with secrecy, their patterns readable only by those who know the stars' dance. You're hooked, seeing the stairways as cosmic canvases, each groove a starlit story. But these messages don't carve themselves. The tools, humble yet sacred, are the carver's weapons. And you're about to examine how they chiseled these celestial codes into Cusco's stone under the empire's starry gaze. You recall that workshop's dusty hum where chisels sang to Inti. Those tools are next, grounding the stars in stone, and you're itching to grip their sacred craft. As you descend the steps, Cusco's pulse torches flickering wind through peaks feels like a celestial rhythm. You're starting to grasp the carver's world, their stairway messages, not just codes, but starry hymns tying earth to sky. Those cosmic patterns are the empire's soul, but the tools that shape them are its hands, and you're ready to explore their sacred power. You're crouched in the flickering glow of a Cusco workshop, the night air heavy with the scent of stone dust and smoldering coca leaves, the rhythmic clink of chisels blending with the distant wail of a quena flute. You're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps. They're spirals tracing Venus's cosmic arc. Remember that carver aligning a Pleiades cross under starlight. His celestial precision was divine, but it was forged with tools as sacred as the stones themselves. Now you're examining the instruments Inca carvers used to etch these cryptic codes, and trust me, it's sharper than a condor's talon. Picture yourself beside a workbench cluttered with basalt hammers, obsidian chisels, and smooth river stones, their edges glinting under torchlight like stars in a cave. Carvers wield these tools with reverence, their hands scarred from years of shaping andesite, each strike embedding a zigzag or swirl into stairway steps. These aren't just tools, they're vessels of huaca, blessed with coca offerings to carry Inti's will. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca stonework was unparalleled, with carvers using simple but precise instruments to fit stone so tightly a blade couldn't slip between them all while hiding messages in plain sight. You're watching a master carver tap a basalt hammer against an obsidian chisel, carving a faint cross that marks a solstice, his rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. Here's the quirky bit. Some carvers believe their chisels sang when cutting sacred patterns, a faint hum felt in their bones. Imagine your hammer vibing like a tuning fork. Sounds like a mason's ghost story, right? Historians still argue whether this was spiritual belief or a craftsman's focus. Did chisels really sing, or were carvers just lost in their groove? You lean closer, the workshop's grit tickling your nose. The carver's chisel, honed to a razor's edge, etches a spiral so subtle it vanishes unless the torchlight hits just right. He uses a polished stone to smooth the groove, blending it into the step's grain, while a bronze star rare traded from northern tribes measures angles to align the spiral with Venus's rise. You're struck by the elegance how these humble tools craft cosmic codes. It's like sketching a galaxy with a pencil stub. But for an empire's secrets, you smirk thinking of your own favorite tools. Ever treat a pen like it's magic? These carvers cradle their chisels like sacred relics. You notice an apprentice grinding a new basalt hammer, his hands raw from shaping its edge. Tools are tapu, handled only by guild members, and apprentices earn the right through years of sweeping dust and chanting to Pachamama. A dull chisel or sloppy strike could botch a message, miscounting tribute or misaligning a ritual. You wince, imagining the master's scowl. It's like flubbing a code commit, but with Inti's judgment. You chuckle, picturing the apprentice polishing his hammer like you'd baby your phone, praying it doesn't fail. The tools demand care, stored in woven bags, blessed by priest to keep their waka potent. You glance at a half-carved step, its zigzag gleaming faintly, a harvest tally hidden in plain sight. The carvers pair each tool with purpose hammers for rough cuts, chisels for fine patterns, stones for smoothing. Their skill turns basalt into starry scripts, each groove a nod to the cosmos. You're hooked, seeing these tools as more than metal and rock. They're the guild's soul channeling divine will into stone. You recall that torchlit workshop, its chance binding carvers to Inti. But pride breeds tension, and rivalries among guilds over these sacred patterns simmer ready to flare. And you're about to witness the clashes over their cryptic designs under Cusco's starlit peaks. As you ease out of the workshop, Cusco's rhythm wind whistling llama bleats feels like a carved pulse. You're starting to grasp the carver's craft, their tools not just shaping stone, but weaving Inti's light into the Empire's secrets. Those stairway messages are cosmic, but the guild's rivalries are all too human, and you're itching to see the sparks fly over their sacred codes. You're skulking through the shadowed alleys of Cusco, the night air biting with Andean chill and the faint scent of smoldering coca leaves from a nearby shrine. The city hums with the soft clink of stone tools and the distant murmur of priests. But you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps, their zigzags and spirals pulsing with cosmic huaca. Remember that carver in the workshop, his obsidian chisel singing a solstice cross into stone. His tools were sacred, but the patterns they etched are fiercely guarded, and not all guilds share nicely. Now you're witnessing the rivalries among carvers over these stone secrets, and trust me, it's fiercer than a puma's snarl in the highlands. Picture yourself crouched behind a stone wall near a workshop, overhearing two carvers from rival guilds clash like thunder over a disputed spiral pattern. One's from a Cusco Ailu, renowned for its stepped motifs, the other from a guild near Sacsayhuaman, famed for swirling crosses. Their stairway messages, tribute tallies, ritual dates, or lineage markers are their pride, each guild claiming their codes are closest to Inti's divine will. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca stone carving guilds, often tied to clans or regions, competed for prestige, their patterns securing contracts for temples or the Sapa Inca's palaces. A stolen design could let a rival claim your work, undermining your Ailu's honor. You're watching the Sacsayhuaman carver accuse the other of mimicking across his voice, sharp as his chisel. Here's the quirky bit. Some guilds swore stolen patterns summoned angry Apiyu's mountain spirits who'd send rock slides to punish thieves. Imagine a landslide snitching on a rival. Sounds like a Carver's ghost story right. Historians still argue whether these tales were spiritual fears or competitive shade. Did Apis really curse? Or were guilds just spooking copycats? You edge closer, the torchlight casting jagged shadows. The Cusco carver fires back claiming his spiral is older, blessed by a shaman's vision. These patterns aren't just art, they're tapu tied to ancestors and gods like Pachamama. Copying one risks divine wrath, but it also threatens a guild's livelihood. If a rival's stairway outshines yours, your Ailu could lose favor with nobles, costing contracts or resources. You wince, feeling the sting. It's like a competitor stealing your project's spotlight, but with your clan's rep trashed. You smirk, picturing the carvers glaring like you'd eye a co-worker snagging your idea in a meeting. The argument escalates until a master steps in, his voice slicing through like a basalt hammer's strike. He warns of consequences. Feuds could spark raids, fracture alliances, or draw the Sapa Inca's ire if a disputed pattern delays a temple's steps. You recall that apprentice grinding tools, his hands raw under scrutiny. Rivalries make that pressure brutal. Guilds guard their codes with paranoia, teaching patterns through secret chants or coded gestures to foil spies. A leaked zigzag could let rivals claim a solstice marker or sabotage a tribute count. You're struck by the fragility, how one slip can unravel a brotherhood's mana. You chuckle, thinking it's like a family recipe war, but with Inti's judgment on the line. You slip away, the alley's chill seeping into your bones. The guild's pride fuels their craft, but it breeds suspicion. A carver from a rival Ailu might visit his smile hiding a thief's intent to steal a swirl's angle. The men work on their chisels steady, but you sense their watchfulness. These stairways aren't just stone, they're battlegrounds. Their patterns a source of glory and strife. Ever deal with team drama over credit? That's the carver's world, every chip a test of loyalty. You recall that solstice cross, its starry glow tied to the Pleiades. The priest's influence looms larger, their sacred hands guiding these codes, and you're about to see how they shape the stairway's cryptic soul under Cusco's holy peaks. As you melt back into Cusco's rhythm, torches crackling wind through cliffs, you feel the carver's tension. Their stairway messages are their heart, but rivalries cut deep, sparking feuds under Inti's gaze. Those patterns bind them to the gods, but the priest's will binds them tighter, and you're itching to climb into their sacred domain. You're creeping through the pre-dawn hush of Cusco's sacred quarter, the Andean air sharp with frost, and the faint tang of coca smoke from smoldering temple altars. The city stirs with the soft pad of sandals and the low hum of priests' prayers, but you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into stone stairways, their spirals and zigzags sparking guild rivalries fiercer than a mountain storm. Remember that clash between carvers over a stolen cross pattern? Their feud showed the stairway's power, but another force guided their chisels, the priests. Now, you're revealing how priests shape these cryptic stone codes, and trust me, it's holier than a solstice dawn at Coricancha. Picture yourself standing in the shadowed courtyard of the Sun Temple, its golden walls flickering under torchlight as a priest in a feathered headdress inspects a stairway slab. His coca leaf offering smolders, and his eyes keen as a puma's trace a faint spiral etched into the stone. In Inca society, Priests were cosmic gatekeepers, bridging earth and sky through rituals that tied stonework to Inti Pachamama and the starry Apus mountain spirits. Stairway messages, tribute tallies, solstice markers, or lineage codes needed their blessing to carry Huasha, the sacred essence. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca priests wielded immense influence dictating religious and civic life, ensuring stone patterns aligned with celestial cycles like the Pleiades' rise or Venus's arc. You're watching the priest nod, approving the spiral as an equinox guide his chant, sealing its divine mana. Here's the quirky bit. Some priests claimed patterns shimmered during coca visions, signaling Inti's favor for their placement. Imagine a stone glowing like a divine notification. Sounds like a shaman's trance, right? Historians still argue whether this was mystical insight or ritual theater. Did patterns really shimmer? Or were priests flexing their cosmic clout? You step closer, the temple's chill wrapping around you. The priest's role is critical. His star knowledge ensures the spiral's curve matches Venus's path, guiding a festival's timing. But his influence is a tight leash. A carving too bold, like a zigzag mimicking a forbidden comet, could be deemed heretical, risking Inti's wrath or a failed harvest. You wince imagining the carver's dread. It's like crafting a sacred post, hoping it doesn't flop with the gods, except here it's a cosmic audit. You smirk, picturing a priest squinting at a cross like it's a dodgy spreadsheet. The priest's power isn't just spiritual, it's practical. Their coca rituals and starlit vigils shaping messages that keep the empire's rhythm. You notice a carver hovering nearby, his hands clasped, awaiting the priest's verdict. Priests don't just bless, they dictate. A guild might plan a solstice tally, but the priest decides its form, perhaps a stepped motif, to echo Inti's rays. They demand offerings coca maize or even llama blood before carving begins, ensuring the god's favor. Skipping these risks, tainting the stone's huaca, dooming the message's power. You're hooked, seeing priests as co-authors, their chants turning stairways into divine scripts. It's not just oversight, it's a sacred partnership blending carver's skill with cosmic will. You chuckle thinking of a carver nodding to a priest like you'd appease a picky client. Ever tweak a project for the boss? That's their vibe, but with Inti's gaze. You glance at the slab, its spiral faintly glowing, a coded prayer for priest's eyes only. The carver's patterns born in guild workshops gain their soul through these rites, tying them to Cusco's starry pulse. You recall that rival guilds feud, their stolen cross threatening their mana. Priests keep such tensions in check, ensuring codes serve the empire, not Elu pride. But mistakes happen. A misaligned spiral or skipped offering could unravel the huaca, and priests are unforgiving when sacred stones falter. You're caught feeling the priests sway their hands, steering the stairway's secrets under Cusco's holy peaks. The carver's craft is theirs, but the priest's vision makes it divine, and you're about to face the fallout when these codes are betrayed. As you slip from the courtyard, Cusco's rhythm-soft flutes wind through peaks, feels like a sacred hum. You're starting to grasp the priest's world, their influence turning stairway messages into hymns for Inti, binding carvers to the gods. Those cryptic codes are the empire's prayer. But errors cut deep, and you're itching to see what happens when a carver's chisel strays. You're lurking in the misty dawn of Cusco's temple district, the Andean air sharp with frost, and the faint scent of smoldering coca leaves from sacred altars. The city stirs with the soft shuffle of priests and the low bleat of llamas, but you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into stone stairways, their spirals glowing with priestly huaca. Remember that priest in the Coricancha blessing, a Venus spiral with a coca chant. His sacred oversight kept the codes divine, but betraying them was a crime against Inti himself. Now you're facing the consequences for revealing these carved messages, and trust me, it's heavier than a misstep on a sacred peak. Picture yourself in a crowded temple plaza, the morning sun glinting off andesite as a carver stands before a priest. His head bowed, wrists bound with alpaca cord. He's accused of leaking a zigzag pattern, a tribute tally to a rival Alu risking rebellion by exposing Cusco's wealth. Stairway messages were the empire's lifeline encoding taxes, rituals, or military plans, and their secrecy was sacred. A breach could let spies hoard grain or disrupt solstice rites, unraveling the Inca's cosmic order. Historically, by the 15th century, the Inca punished disloyalty harshly with exile, forced labor, or even sacrifice for crimes threatening the state's divine harmony. You're watching the carver tremble, the priest's glare colder than a glacier's heart. Here's the quirky bit. Some believed a leaked code could anger the Apuus mountain spirits, triggering quakes to punish the traitor. Imagine a tremor ratting you out. Sounds like a cosmic snitch, right? Historians still argue whether this was spiritual fear or social control did carvers dread Apis. Or were priests hyping the stakes to keep them loyal? You edge closer, the plaza's tension thick as fog. The priest's voice booms, detailing the crime the carver swayed by coca bribes shared the zigzags, meaning letting rivals dodge tribute. Punishment varies. Minor slips might mean recarving under scrutiny, but this betrayal demands exile. He's banished to a distant quarry, his guild mark scarred from his skin, his name erased from the Alu's lore. You wince, feeling the shame. It's like being canceled online, but with your whole clan ghosting you. You smirk, picturing the carver sweating his secret like you dodge a group chat expose, except here, it's Inti's wrath at stake. You notice the guild's reaction. Carvers avert their eyes, their loyalty to the stone outweighing pity. A leak doesn't just doom the traitor. It risks the Ailu's honor, threatening contracts with nobles or the Sapa Inca's trust. The priest's verdict restores balance, ensuring stairways remain sacred scripts. You're struck by the ripple effect, how one slip can shake Cusco's foundations, taxes falter, rebels rise, rituals go awry. You recall that apprentice grinding tools, his hands raw under pressure. This is why betrayal isn't just personal. It's cosmic, endangering the Empire's bond with the stars. You chuckle, thinking of a carver double-checking his spiral like you'd triple-check a risky email. The plaza's stairway looms its faint crosses, glinting their secrets intact but fragile. The carver's fate is a warning reveal, a code, and you unravel the Empire's web. Priests guard these messages with rituals, their coca visions tying patterns to Inti's will, but the Sapa Inca's spies ensure loyalty stays tight. You're hooked, feeling the carver's dread, their world balanced on a chisel's edge. You recall that guild feud over a copied cross, the tension thick with Inti's shadow. But secrets travel, some messages spread beyond Cusco. Through trade or conquest, their meanings twisting in new hands. And you're about to track how these cryptic carvings roamed the empire's vast roads. As you slip from the plaza, Cusco's rhythm flutes humming, wind through peaks feels heavy with judgment. You're starting to grasp the carver's burden, their stairway messages not just art, but sacred pacts binding them to gods and empire. Those hidden codes are Inti's voice, but their secrets wandered, and you're itching to follow their trail beyond the sacred city's walls. You're weaving through the bustling dusk of a Cusco marketplace, the Andean air thick with the scent of roasted quinoa and the sharp tang of chicha fermenting in clay pots. The city's alive with the chatter of traders and the soft clink of quippers being knotted, but you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps, their zigzags and spirals guarding imperial secrets. Remember that exiled carver banished for leaking a tribute zigzag to a rival Ailu. His betrayal showed the stairway's sacred weight, but their codes weren't always locked in Cusco's stone heart. Now you're tracking how these carving techniques and messages spread beyond the capital through trade and conquest, and trust me, it's wilder than a caravan, winding through the Andes peaks. Picture yourself at a highland trading post where merchants from Cusco barter with envoys from provinces like Cala or Chincha, their packs heavy with coca textiles and polished andesite slabs. A carver, his guild mark hidden under a woven cloak, trades a step etched with a faint cross for a bronze chisel, showing a Cala mason how to carve a stepped motif. These stairway messages, solstice markers, tribute counts, or lineage codes traveled the Inca's vast road network, carried by guilds, Micmac settlers, or conquered artisans. Historically, by the early 16th century, the Inca Empire spanned from Ecuador to Chile, and its stonework techniques, including cryptic patterns, spread to sites like Tiwanaku or Vilcashuaman through forced labor and cultural exchange. You're watching the carver guard his spirals, meaning sharing only the craft's form, not its sacred intent. Here's the quirky bit: some traders claimed stairway stones held journey mana, protecting caravans from bandits if carried as talismans. Imagine a rock as your travel lucky charm. Sounds like a merchant's roadside hustle, right? Historians still argue whether this was folklore or a trade ploy. Did stones really guard journeys, or were traders boosting their mystique? You step closer, the market's dust swirling around you. The carver's cautious teaching the Cala mason to align a zigzag but omitting its tribute code, a secret reserved for Cusco's priests. Guilds controlled this spread, knowing a leaked message could let provinces dodge taxes or misread rituals, weakening the empire's grip. You're struck by the balance trade shared the Inca's stone artistry, but secrecy kept the code's power in Cusco. It's like posting a cool design online, but hiding the source code glory without giving it all away. You smirk, imagining the mason puzzling over a cross, like it's a cryptic app glitch. You'd rage quit. You notice a Chincha envoy eyeing the slab, his hands itching to learn its secrets. He's out of luck. The guild's patterns, like solstice swirls, are layered with waka, their meanings locked to outsiders. But conquests blurred these lines. When the Inca subdued regions like the Chimu, they relocated artisans to Cusco, where some learned stairway carving, blending local styles into the empire's codes. Others sent as mitmac to provinces carved stairways in distant temples, spreading techniques, but not always the full message. You wince, recalling the exiled carver's shame. Imagine his fear if his leak reached Quito's sparking revolt. You chuckle, picturing a carver dodging questions like you'd sidestep a nosy co-worker's probe. You wander past a caravan loading maize, its leader tracing a spiral on a stone talisman, a nod to a Cusco stairway code. The message's reach was vast. Inca roads carried them to outposts, where local carvers mimicked zigzags for temples, their meanings shifting to fit new apus or stars. You're hooked, seeing the stairway's legacy ripple beyond Cusco, their patterns a silent script of empire. You recall that guild's torchlit workshop, their chisels guarding Inti's secrets. But these codes left a deeper mark inspiring Inca art beyond stairways. And you're about to trace how their cryptic patterns shaped the empire's stone soul under the Andes' starry peaks. As you melt back into Cusco's rhythm market shouts, wind through cliffs, you feel the message's journey. Their carved secrets, not just codes, but threads in the Inca's vast tapestry. Those stairways carried the empire's voice far, but their legacy in art runs deeper, and you're itching to explore their broader canvas. You're wandering through the golden dusk of Cusco's sacred valley, the fading sun painting stone peaks in hues of amber as the air hums with the scent of blooming quinoa and the distant clatter of pilgrim sandals. The city pulses with the soft rhythm of rituals and the faint echo of chisels, and you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps, their zigzags and spirals spreading secrets across the empire's roads. Remember that carver at the trading post sharing a stepped motif, but guarding its tribute code. His craft traveled far, but its deepest imprint lies in Cusco's heart-shaping Inca art. Now you're tracing how these stairway messages inspired the empire's stone legacy. And trust me, it's more radiant than a temple's gold under Inti's gaze. Picture yourself stepping into the fortress of Sacsayhuaman. Its colossal stone walls, fitted so tightly they seem to pulse, their surfaces etched with faint swirls and crosses, mirroring the stairway's cryptic codes. These aren't just defenses, they're canvases where the carver's patterns bloomed into a broader artistic language. The stairway messages, solstice markers, tribute tallies, lineage spirals spark designs across Inca stonework, from temple lintels to sacred huaca shrines. Historically, by the 15th century, Inca art was a visual script with stonework at sites like Machu Picchu, blending utility and symbolism, its patterns tying the empire to Inti and Pachamama. You're running your fingers along a wall's zigzag, its form echoing a stairway's harvest code, feeling the carver's touch in every groove. Here's the quirky bit. Some artisans claimed their patterns shimmered in moonlight, revealing Pachamama's blessings during equinox rites. Imagine a stone wall glowing like a cosmic disco. Sounds like a carver's wild vision. Right. Historians still argue whether this was spiritual insight or artistic hype. Did patterns really shimmer, or were carvers boosting their work's mystique? You step closer, the fortress's cool stone grounding you. A temple lintel nearby boasts a spiral its curve matching a stairway's Venus marker, while a plaza's paving stones trace stepped motifs, echoing ritual tallies. You're struck by the connection, how the stairways codes born in guild workshops seeded Inca art turning walls into cosmic narratives. It's like a viral meme spawning fan art, but here it's the empire's soul in stone. You smirk, thinking of your favorite logo popping up everywhere. Cool, but it's not guiding a solstice right. The carver's pattern, subtle yet potent, became templates, their swirls and crosses carved into altars, fountains, even royal tombs, each a silent prayer to Inti. You wander to a Huaca shrine, its boulder etched with a cross that shifts in the dusk light, a stairway code reborn as sacred art. The carvers, steeped in guild secrecy, infused their work with Huaca, their messages mana, flowing into broader designs. But it's bittersweet their names are lost, their alias credited only in whispers. You recall that exiled carver, his zigzag betrayal scarring his legacy. His patterns live in these walls, but he's a ghost in the stone. You chuckle, picturing him nodding at a temple swirl, anonymous but proud. Ever create something epic and get no credit? That's the carver's vibe, their art eternal, but their voices silent. You pause by a carved fountain, its zigzag channels mimicking a stairway's tribute tally, guiding water like the empire's wealth. The stairway's influence ripples through Coricancha's golden walls, Ollantaytambo's terraces, even Quipas's knots, echoing their step motifs. You're hooked, seeing the codes as seeds, their cosmic and practical meanings sprouting across Inca culture. The carver's hands wove a stone tapestry, their tools and prayers rooting it in the Andes' heart. You recall that torchlit workshop, its chisels singing to Inti. But the carvers themselves, they lived dual lives, balancing sacred craft with community duties, and you're about to explore how they juggled their chisels under Cusco's starry skies. As you drift back to the city's core, Cusco's pulse flutes humming. Pilgrim's murmurs feels like a carved song. You're starting to grasp the stairway's reach, their hidden messages, not just codes, but sparks for art that binds the empire. Those patterns wove Inca identity, but the carvers' lives were the chisel, and you're itching to uncover their dual roles in this sacred stone world. You're slipping through the twilight bustle of Cusco's sacred streets, the Andean air soft with the scent of burning maize and the faint grit of stone dust from nearby workshops. The city glows with torchlight, its pulse of chants and llama bleats fading into the starry night, but you're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps, their zigzags and spirals echoing in Sacsayhuaman's walls. Remember that carved fountain, its channels mimicking a tribute code, the stairways shaped Inca art, but the carvers were more than artisans. Now, you're exploring their dual lives, balancing sacred craft with community roles, and trust me, it's busier than a solstice festival at Coricancha. Picture yourself trailing a carver through Cusco's bustling plaza, his cloak dusted with andesite as he weaves past traders and priests. By day, he's a guild master chiseling solstice crosses in a torchlit workshop, his prayers to Inti guiding each strike. By night, he's a father, a counselor, or a Mitmak overseer settling Ailu disputes or tending communal quinoa fields. In Inca society, artisans were woven into the empire's fabric, their skills serving gods and kin alike. Historically, by the 15th century, carvers held high status in Alis, their stairway messages vital to taxes, rituals, and conquest, but they also bore civic duties, like organizing labor or teaching apprentices. You're watching him pause to mediate a squabble over terrace rights. His voice calm, but firm, like he's aligning stones. Here's the quirky bit. Some carvers use stone metaphors in disputes, likening tempers to misfit blocks needing a chisel's touch. Imagine settling a fight with smooth. This, like a temple step, sounds like a mason's life hack, right? Historians still argue whether this was leadership or cultural flair. Did carvers mediate with craft wisdom, or was it just Inca style? You follow him to a field where he inspects maize rows, his carver's eye spotting flaws like he'd catch a crooked spiral. His dual life is relentless workshops demand precision etching, tribute zigzags under priest scrutiny. But the Ailu pulls him into planting festivals or quipu record-keeping. You're struck by the grind, how he balances sacred codes with earthly needs. It's like juggling a job and family, except your job talks to Pachamama, and your family runs an empire. You smirk, thinking of your own multitasking chaos ever burn out on deadlines. That's his life with chisels instead of keyboards. You notice him slip into a workshop, his hands lifting an obsidian chisel to show an apprentice a cross's angle. Even here, he's a mentor passing guild secrets while chanting to Inti, but his mind's half on a council meeting about road repairs. The pressure's fierce. A flawed message could miscount taxes, angering the Sapa Inca, while neglecting the Ailu dims his mana, weakening his guild's huacha. You wince feeling the weight. It's like bombing a presentation while your team needs you. Except here, it's cosmic harmony at stake. You chuckle, picturing him practicing his chisel strokes like you'd rehearse a big speech, hoping to nail both roles. You glance at his worn sandals, a sign of his humble roots despite his skill. He's no noble, but his stairways bind Cusco to the stars, guiding priests and armies. The guild fuels his pride, but the Ailu grounds him, his dual life a bridge between stone and soil gods and kin. You're hooked, seeing how his chisels carve both messages and community a thread in the Inca's tapestry. You recall that exiled carver, his betrayal scarring his Ayla our carver here lives, that fear balancing duty with devotion. You chuckle imagining him dodging guild drama like you'd sidestep office gossip. His world is a delicate dance, but time shifts stone, and you're about to reflect on why these stairway secrets faded like stars at dawn. As you ease into Cusco's darkening alleys, the city's rhythm flutes wind, distant drums, feels like a living stone. You're starting to grasp the carver's world, their dual lives, stitching a sacred craft to the empire's heart. Those stairway messages were their manna. But empires fall, and you're itching to explore why their codes vanished under the Andes' starry skies. You're drifting through the quiet twilight of Cusco's sacred valley, the Andean air soft with the scent of cooling earth and faint coca smoke, the city's pulse slowing as stars emerge over jagged peaks. You're still chasing those hidden messages carved into Inca stairway steps, their zigzags and spirals, weaving the empire's soul into stone. Remember that carver juggling guild in Ailu, his chisel steady, despite a life split between sacred codes and community. His dual role held Cusco's heart, but even the tightest stones crack. Now you're reflecting on why these stairway messages vanished, their secrets fading like a condor's cry. And trust me, it's as poignant as Aquena's last note. Picture yourself standing on a deserted stairway, its andesite steps worn smooth by time, their faint crosses and swirls barely visible in the starlight. The workshops are silent chisels, stilled the guild's chants gone, their messages once pulsing with tribute tallies and solstice markers, now mute. Historically, the 16th century saw the Inca Empire's fall with Spanish conquest in 1533, shattering Cusco's core. Conquistadors looted temples, enslaved carvers, and imposed colonial rule, leaving stairway codes unread as priests and nobles perished. The oral traditions that taught these patterns, guarded by guilds, faded as artisans died or scattered their secrets unrecorded in a culture without writing. You're touching a spiral, its Venus arc dim, feeling the weight of a lost script. Here's the quirky bit. Some elders claimed Inti hid the messages, dimming their meanings to shield them from Spanish hands. Imagine the sun god cloaking his own codes. Sounds like a divine lockbox, right? Historians still argue whether this was spiritual coping or deliberate secrecy. Did Inti guard the secrets, or did chaos erase them? You step along the stairway, the stone silence heavy. The carver's secrecy, their strength, was their undoing. Patterns taught through chants and rituals relied on living masters. As smallpox failed, artisans' conquest broke guilds, and Christian missions replaced Inti's rites, the knowledge frayed. Spanish chroniclers marveled at Inca stonework, but missed the codes their meanings lost to outsiders. You wince, imagining a carver's grief, his solstice cross half forgotten. It's like losing a family recipe mid-cook, except it's an empire's soul. You recall that exiled carver, his zigzag betrayal scarring his ale. His fear of exposure kept codes pure, but doomed them when Cusco fell. You glance at a temple wall, its zigzag echoing a stairway's tribute tally, a ghost of the carver's art. The messages linger in fragments, Sacsayhuaman's walls, Machu Picchu's terraces, but their meanings dimmed, reduced to decoration by those who couldn't read them. The priests' coca rituals, the guild's chants, the Sapa Inca's oversight, all faded under colonial boots, leaving stones that speak only to the stars. You smirk, thinking it's like a group chat going quiet when the project's done heartbreaking, but time marches on. You chuckle softly, picturing a carver's ghost sighing at a tourist snapping his spiral, clueless to its huaca. The Andes feel still their peaks, cradling Cusco's fading light. The stairway's story of chisels, gods, and empires endures in their stones, a silent hymn to Inti's reign. You're starting to feel their loss, a language carved for eternity, yet lost to time, but also their strength, how they held an empire's secrets under starry skies. Those carvers, with their dual lives and sacred tools, chiseled more than stone. They chiseled a world, its echo lingering in every groove. The valley's glow softens Cusco's stones, blurring into the night, their swirls and crosses fading like whispers under the Andes' starry canopy. You're standing on a quiet peak, the city below a tapestry of torchlight and shadow, the wind humming through ancient steps, the carvers' messages bright with tribute and ritual tied earth to sky, their chisels singing Inti's will. Though their secrets dimmed, their spirit hums in the stones, in every spiral catching starlight. Let the mountains hush, cradle you the stars, a gentle guide. Close your eyes, feel the Andes' ancient embrace, and drift into a dream where the stairways still sing. Good night.